Broadcasting across the country and around the world, from Sin City in Las Vegas, Nevada, join Moose and PowerSerg as we prove that age is truly just a number and the best life is yet to come. Grab a seat, pour yourself a drink, and dare to live on 50 Shades of Great.
Welcome back to another episode, 50 Shades of Great, Living Your Best Life. I am the Real Radio Moose, accompanied here with my executive producer and co-host, PowerSerg. Power, welcome back. We are both remote again, and although it may look like I have a background set up here, this is actually my backyard, though, in California.
Nice.
In fact, if you look over here, I've got a little skeleton, I'll call it my skeleton crew, but I got a little skeleton audience preparing for Halloween.
What's the weather like? I've been traveling since we did our last episode in Mexico. I've been traveling.
Yeah, we're not clear 90s, no humidity, beautiful Southern California day. So, but excited for today's show. We've been talking about always living your best life, 50 Shades of Great, dare to live, and truly taking that dare, grasping life by the horns and living that best life. Today, what we're going to talk about is living like a rock star. That's the name of the show. Living like a rock star, and we've got a guest that we're bringing on who truly has lived like a rock star. I don't know how he does it. That's why I really was excited about bringing him on, Serge, is because, I mean, this is a guy who's traveled the world. He's performed as a drummer, percussionist in Europe, Asia, South America, Iraq, Kuwait, all these venues.
With some big names, right? Like performed with some
big El Chicano. He's played for Disney, Band of Brothers, Pancho Sanchez, Pink, Stevie B, Lighter Shade of Brown. In fact, he was just on the cruise tour,
nice.
The throwback tour with Lighter Shade of Brown. You know, chilling in the park on a Sunday afternoon. Everybody knows, like today, this Sunday afternoon. Tierra, who he's currently with, and then he was on the world tour with Jennifer Lopez. Wow. So without further ado, I would like to invite to the show Phil Ruiz.
How's it going? Yeah, drummer Phil, DRUMMER PHIL.
Well,
thanks for having me.
I have to say, I saw your IG, and the first thing I saw was pictures of you hanging out with Danny Trejo. That's pretty impressive.
Danny's a great guy. He's definitely a great actor because he portrays, one of the most intimidating characters, in the movies, but in real life, he is definitely a sweetheart.
And Phil, looking at Danny, he's really brought a lot to the Chicano movement and the ability for Mexican-American actors
Absolutely.
to become something in Hollywood. Because when you think of a Mexican actor, he's probably one of the first that comes to your mind.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The first time I saw him was on Desperado, as one of the assassins.
How old is he now?
I don't remember. Yeah, no, he's up there, but he's definitely,
wow.
He does not seem his age.
No, I mean, we'll show the photos from your IG right now to our audience, and yeah, it's pretty impressive. You've had quite the story. Now, Phil, I have to ask the same question. How old are you?
I'm 49. I am 49.
49.
My last year, yeah.
Right in there.
Almost 50, right in there. And
50 Shades of Great. You're knocking on the door, buddy.
That's right.
Single or married?
Married 18 years.
Wow. What?
Absolutely.
Only marriage?
Yes, to the same woman. Yes.
Oh, you're a slacker. Yeah. Moose over here leads us at what is it? Moose 5, 6.
Four.
We lost count.
Four. Yeah, let's get away. We're talking about living like a rock star, okay? Well, I guess divorce is part of living like a rock star, but not in the situation with Phil. But Phil, here's the thing, and this is what awesome. I want to dive into this in the show here is the concept of our show is men living their best life.
For sure.
And really taking on, not letting life slow them down. And as we reach 50 and as we hit 50, starting over, like having a rebirth and jumping in, taking the best that we can get out of life. I mean, you're a devout husband, father, you're a softball coach, a high school teacher,
yeah.
An active high school teacher, and you tour the world as a rock star. How do you do it?
Just keep moving. Keep swimming. The one thing I learned from my dad before he passed was, having a balanced life. I have 3 kids. One of them's moved out of the house. But the 2 that are still here, both teenagers, everybody has a certain amount of time, and making sure you also have time for yourself, time, time with your spouse, time with one kid, time with the other kid, time with both kids, time with the whole family, time by yourself, so I
And
think
time with the band.
oh yeah, yeah, and then the music, and then the different projects that I'm part of,
And we talk about that quite a bit. Like we talk about the fact that the term we use, you got to put the mask on yourself first, right? Using the airplane analogy, right? Is that it's important to take care of you, because if you are empty, you're not going to be able to support anyone else, right? Take care of yourself, and then you'll be able to take care of other people. So tell us a little bit about, did you start as a drummer? Like that was your first passion?
music has always been a part of my family. It's always been a beautiful part of my family. Growing up, my parents were both musicians. Majority of my siblings were musicians. My grandparents were musicians, and I just happened to, over the years, find it to be more of have it become a profession. When I was younger, it was all about having fun, and and being in, and rocking out, and doing this, that, and the other, and then coming home and have nothing to show for it. Um, Now that I'm older, I've been able to look at it more as a profession and have a lot more respect, and be able to maintain good sustainable living. But yeah, it's always been my first love. My wife knows it's my first love. My kids know it's my first love. My whole family knows it's my first love. And there have been times in my past where it was also it was kind of my demise, because I didn't have a good understanding between the music life and reality. I didn't know how to
Mm.
pay. I didn't know how to do taxes. I didn't know how to, pay bills. I didn't know how to have a decent relationship outside of music. But fortunately, over time, those are things that we learn. As we get older, and we're able to, fortunately, most of us, there are some of us that are still stuck in that young, rock star mentality. But for myself, I'm very fortunate to have been able to transition into a better understanding of how to make this a sustainable living, and still have a balanced family life.
Well, Phil, I've known you for quite a few
Yeah.
years now. We've talked about behind the music before. I know you grew up in East Los Angeles in a rough neighborhood, and I know in the past we've talked about how you turned to music, and when all your other friends were gangbanging, your gangbanging was music and in the bands. And do you feel like that connection has been the core that you're trying to kind of rebirth as you go into 50 and kind of close out what got you through those early years?
The demographic of audience, most of my fans are in that former gangster, lowrider lifestyle. And there's always that reminder of, where I came from. Um, having to dodge bullets on the way to school, having to be invited to, hey, come join this, to come be a part of this. Fortunately, I was pretty grounded when I was real young, growing up in a Christian home. My dad was he was, even though he was a musician on the weekends, he was still the church leader. He was the pastor at our church growing up. So, it was pretty strict, and a strict upbringing, with, family values being at the forefront of everything that I was doing. And fortunately, that always took precedence over any other
But
type of temptation, I guess.
but hold on a second. I always thought the pastor's kids were always the wildest kids.
Well,
Well,
again,
yeah,
I mean,
You're
I
breaking
did
the mold here, Phil.
I did rebel when I was 19. There was a dark period in my life, where I had to, again, like, I learned how to transition from being a strict Christian kid to going into this lifestyle of debauchery, back and forth, back and forth. And by the time I was like 19 or 20, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to handle things. So, over that next probably 5, 6 years, it was definitely a tough time, where by the time I was 23, truth be told, I actually left music for a few years. I went into hiding. And I had to really try to figure out reality. And even though I still had my first love of music, even though I still love music, music became my family's business. My dad was my manager. It was kind of a similar story as Michael Jackson, Joe Jackson, that kind of thing. And, at the same time with a little bit of Selena, where Selena's dad was her manager. When I was younger, when I was about 14 is when I joined, was when I really got into the industry, and my dad saw dollar signs. It ended up becoming his focus. And unfortunately, it was a distraction from the rest of the family. Fortunately, before he passed, we finally made amends with all of those younger years, and all of that stuff that came from it. But I learned a lot through those darker years, and I didn't get back into music until I was about 29, I think 29 or 30, when my wife and I got married, and I had lost my job. She was between jobs, and we had no idea what we were going to do. And she said, "Oh, I was talking to your mom. She said you used to be a musician at one time." And I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'm going back."
Well, Phil, I want to bring something up because you hit on something, and not to get all sappy,
No, yeah, for sure. That's
but
why we're here.
but I tell you what, man. There's one thing that I've heard you say to your softball. I mean, you're a club softball coach with girls that are getting scholarships to college. You're very strict in that, and you give it your all. You're not getting paid, and you've always said something to the girls growing up with the softball, and that is stay humble. And going through all of that, and now, you and I recently went to a concert together with Toad the Wet Sprocket, and I mean, it's Toad the Wet Sprocket. It was like off it, Sergio. I don't know if Toad the Wet Sprocket, and then the Verve Pipe, right? A little alternative rock, but you're just your humbleness and humility, and like saying hi to the guys and the concert. And then you turn around, you go to a Tierra concert or solo, or you're on tour with J Lo in front of 40,000 people, and then you come back to the classroom. How do you do that? How do you maintain that humility to be able to switch that on and off?
I think it's funny, through all of the years that I've been doing this and all the craziness that I've experienced. I think I've developed a little bit of a multiple personality, just in general, like Sybil, or I just know, where to put this hat on and where to take this hat off. And it's I've been doing it for so long. It's who I am. It's natural to me. For somebody who's not in that lifestyle, it just seems so, it seems so crazy and esoteric that it's like, how, impossible. But for me, because it's who I am, it's like I don't know the lifestyle. I think it's crazy, like people who fly jets. Like, how do you fly a jet? Like, how is that possible? Like, those fighter pilots, to them, that's just
Right.
what they do. That's their going. Our law enforcement, our military. Like, that's why I respect them so much. Like, how do you have that kind of lifestyle? Oh my goodness, it's just so crazy to me. That's who they are. That's just what they're used to. To me, it's just been my life for so long. Like I said, I've known music since before I was born, since I was in my mother's womb, and coming out, and like I said, going from church to school to going to a gig at 14 years old, and then I had to take this on and take this off. And I think what makes it more, excuse me, for me, it's more interesting because now I use a lot of what I do to help the other aspects of my life. The struggles of being a musician. I can use that in relation to being a softball coach, and using some examples as a musician, to my girls, or in the classroom. I can use some examples in the classroom, and then in the classroom I can use some of those examples to my kids. And then my family situations, I can use some of those examples. I take that on stage with me, and I'm able to express my emotions. And
It sounds like, and we talk about this, that every man kind of has his own journey, right? And so your journey is, you live the true sort of what we traditionally think of a rock star lifestyle, right?
yeah,
Power all the way, the metal, the pedal all the way down to the metal, when you were younger, and now your peace and your comfort is the quieter moments. You're happy being married, happy being a dad, softball coach, etc. Like, that
I,
seems to be your bliss, just from hearing you talk. That's where that's your bliss right now,
yeah.
as you're hitting 50. And I had mine is the opposite, right? I was the quiet family guy to a certain degree when I was younger, and so now that I'm 50, I'm single. Um, I am no longer embarrassed by the fact that I want to live my life, at full steam. Uh,
Rock out with your cocktail out.
there you go. And
It's funny you bring that up because I was just watching the story of Motley Crue.
mm,
And if you watch the story of Motley Crue, it's there. It talks about when they were younger and how they went so hard, and every single guy on in that band, they all had their individual demons, and
Right.
over time they were able to conquer those demons, and now they all live a life that's more quote unquote down to earth. But it's interesting that rock star life humbles you really fast. It humbles you. You either sink or swim. There's not a lot of guys that that goes hard like somebody like Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, think of somebody like Ozzy Osbourne who was just so crazy. He had such a crazy rock star lifestyle that we see him on TV, and even his TV life of being just low key and just whatever, like even that's not the reality. So much like Bobby brought up when working with Jennifer Lopez, I came home from being on the road with her for 6 months. The week previous to me coming home, I was partying with DJ Khaled, Ryan Seacrest, Gloria Estefan, Jennifer Lopez, all these A-listers. Then I come home. Then I come home 2 days later, and my kids open up the door. They have a sign that says "Welcome home, Daddy. We missed you." Da 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 da. Sit
Oh,
down. All the that cliche stuff. They sit down for a half hour, get the hugs out, and then my wife says, "Okay, yeah, the lawn needs to be mowed. Yeah, your laundry needs to get folded and put away. Yeah, the dishes are stinky. They've been in there for a while. You need to go." The reality is not what we see on TV. There is that cliche and rock star life, but it's not that way.
I think
so
reality is the balance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I get that, and so I have solves for a lot of those things, right? And so this is one of the things that I talk about all the time. The tactical approach to life that I think that I'm finally getting is that I go for the solve, right? So, for example, if I want to do something else and I need to do laundry, I drop my laundry off at Fluff and Fold, right? I solve for what I want. Right now, my solve is free time, right? That's the one commodity that's the most expensive to me, right? That's the one commodity that's most important to me. So, like all those things you described, I this is where housekeepers, right, come in. This is where Fluff and Fold comes in. This is where sometimes if I need to do something and I don't want to feel like driving, this is where long distance Ubers come in.
But you make a good point on the solve. And Phil, what I'm getting from you is that the music is your solve. Your dare to live and to go live like a rock. I mean, you could easily tomorrow give up your family, get on the drugs, but you don't, because your peace is obviously where you're at, your home, your family, you're being a coach. And I think men sometimes we don't realize that daring to live and living our best life also comes with
yeah,
balance.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
peace cannot be one extreme or the other. Look at our politics, left and right. That balance and peace is the closer you get away from that.
Right.
And I think that the ability for you to go out there, because I've seen your lives, man. I saw you with lighter shade of brown on the cruise. I mean, the hotties that are throwing themselves at you, the drugs and alcohol that are
Yeah.
available before and after the parties, the ability to go over and do basically whatever the hell you want, and you don't,
Right.
because your peace and your happiness is back there. So
It's a full circle of things. And what stresses me out the most is when there's a part of that circle that's missing that I don't know the answer to, or that cannot be filled. And I don't know how to fill it. So if I'm looking at this circle, looking almost like a pie chart, if there's a part of that pie chart that has nothing in there, I feel like it hasn't completed me. And if I don't know what fits that, that's what stresses me out. If what that little piece of pie, right? If I don't know what fits in that little part, that's what stresses me out. If that's like leisure time, great. If that's time with the family, great. If that's work, if that's travel, whatever it is, I need to know what fills that circle. But it's at any time where in that circle that something's missing and I don't know what goes there, that's what stresses me out the most. Is not knowing what's going on.
That's
Yeah.
so true, right?
And so you use it as an outlet. That's great. But you know your parameters
That's
and you
it.
know your balance. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
And I've worked so I've worked so hard, just like a lot of us, we work so hard in our lives to feel good about something, and then we work even extra hard to feel great about something. My I guess my biggest worry as I get older, what kind of legacy am I leaving? What am I leaving to my kids? How are my kids going to remember me, and how long am I going to be remembered? Or am I just going to disappear with time? That part of who we are is something that we can't avoid. That there's going to be some point in our life where we're going to have to say goodbye at some point. Now, what are we leaving behind for our family, and how long is that going to last? Being a musician, one of my favorite movies of all time, being a grown man, is the movie Coco. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Coco, but there's a part there. The whole point of the movie in Coco is where the
Yeah.
memories of your past loved ones completely go away when you don't have, something about them that keeps them going. I have what's called an ofrenda. Bob, you might know what an ofrenda is, but it's a little shelf. These are all pictures and people that have passed on in my family. My grandma
Mm.
right there, my other grandma, and these are all people that were, obviously, my family members. And in the movie Coco, if you don't have an ofrenda, their memories pass. But my point is like, how am I going to be remembered?
It's unique, right? It's unique to men sort of in our stages of life where we still have time to affect that legacy. We still
Exactly.
have time to change how people will remember us, right? So I think that when you get into your 70s, like the time goes shorter. We still have time. We now are thinking about the legacy because we're looking at it, but we still have time to affect it. And I think that's
Exactly.
very
That's it.
important.
That's where we're at, and that's why I think. And Bobby, the other night, when we went out to the concert, we were talking about health. We were talking
Yeah.
about like, okay, well, what are we doing now? We weren't thinking
Trying to get my fat ass out of that chair.
we weren't thinking about this stuff. We weren't thinking about this stuff when we were younger because metabolism wasn't even in our vocabulary. And now that we're older, it's like, we roll out of bed. Oh, that's a new pain. Um, that's
Got
something
to take my testosterone shot on Tuesday.
getting our B12 shots, getting our, whatever it
Yeah.
is we got to do, going to the gym. Like I never went to the gym when I was 19. It wasn't a thing. I go to the gym now. Why? Because I'm trying to prolong that, trying to again, live my best life. Um,
Right.
one of the things that almost lives with me every single day, that my wife and I do something is that I seen this meme or some picture, and it was a picture of an elderly man and woman in a gondola in Venice, and they were both passed out asleep, and the gondolier's like, I don't want to be that. I want to enjoy life now.
Right.
Truth be told, my wife and I, we don't really have much of a savings because we live. Now we travel. And when it's not her and I'm doing things. When it's not me, she's doing things. We're trying to live our best life now. My 26-year-old, she lives in Vegas, goes to all the music festivals. She's making 100K working it in and out. She's like, my mom or my dad and my stepmom, they are my goals because they're living their best life now. You don't want to wait till
Right.
you're older, till you're retired. Travel
We don't want to
much.
we don't want to retire. We want to
I
re-inspire.
don't. I don't
Okay,
even.
that's what
Yeah,
we're
like
doing. Living our
my
best
wife
life.
says, you're going to die on stage, and that's probably true.
And then you're going to die happy.
And that's it.
And
That's
you're
it.
going to die
So
doing what you love. I want to touch on Coco for a minute because it's interesting coming from a musician that would be the best movie because in the end, the supposed rock star turned out was an imposter. and was the bad guy and evil. And it really came down to what was true and focused. So we're running out of time here. I do want to get to a couple stories, though. When I think of drummers, so drummers, I think, have been overlooked for so long in the music industry. It's always about the lead singer. It's always about the bass guitarist. I love the fact that Travis Barker comes out now and like that Blink show is just as much about him as everyone else. You see Chad Smith, Steve Adler. Recently, one of my favorite bands is I Prevail, and this guy, the drummer there. So Gabe he's got like his online, app that he's created, Drum Beats Online. But what he's done now to like add something to that, and I know you've talked about, being able to focus on multiple things as a drummer, but I don't know if you saw this or if you know who I Prevail is, but they're literally on tour in front of like 30,000 people, heavy metal playing, and he's cooking Belgian waffles on stage. I'll send you the link. Yeah, it's cool, but why drumming?
Why is he cooking Belgian waffles on stage?
He's hungry.
To prove he could.
It's a long set.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the kind of, and most of the drummers, my brother was a drummer, growing up. They played in a Green Day cover band. And it's just, there's something about the drummers. I feel like you guys just have more of I'm not trying to talk shit to all the other, people in the band, but there seems to be this like humility. But I tell you what, man, in the end, for me, the badass part of music is when that drum beat hits. I mean, what drew you in life to be a drummer? Why'd you select drummer because you're also a singer, you've got good vocals, you got good pipes, and I've heard you sing at my barbecue.
Yeah, after a few beers, it's not too exciting, but but you know what? The drums, drums are the first instrument. It's the instrument that connects our souls, connects our beat to the earth. Like, I don't want to sound, extra, I don't want to sound philosophical, but that's facts. Like, everybody has a rhythm inside of them. Everybody that's breathing has a beat going on inside of them all the time. And it's a natural attraction. When we're born, we're so attracted to our mother's heartbeat from when we were inside the womb for 9 months or however long we were inside, that when we're outside of the womb, that's our safe place. Is close to the mother's heart, is close to that rhythm, it's close to that. And rhythm is what makes the world go round. You talked about that my tattoo here. It's an Ouroboros. It's the sun going up and the moon going down, and then the moon coming up and the sun going down. It's the circle of life. Just everything has rhythm, everything has groove, everything has a beat. And it's just so we're so spiritually, naturally attached to that through spirit and our organic being.
Well, the drums have always called us to war, right? Like, drums have a lot of functionality in history.
Yeah.
Right. It's what guided originally what had guided ships, right? When they would row in sequence, it was drumming.
Everything.
Companies would go into war to the drum beat. The drum was an important position in the military for centuries. So yeah, no, I get it. I mean, my one of my favorite drummers is Phil Collins. Like, that goes back to the 80s.
Sir, high five. That's my first. That's that dude. That's who I wanted to be when I was a little boy, and with his accent, his British accent.
Yeah, first concert. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Just keep working on it.
I'll keep working on it.
British accent from South Central British accent. It'll be good. It'll be a good combination.
There you go.
So you're looking at 50. So the first thing is, what's your biggest struggle that you see, like, today versus yesterday and the decade before?
I have what you call imposter syndrome. And if you're not familiar with imposter syndrome,
we know it well.
The basic definition is feeling like you're not good enough, feeling like you're still not satisfied, even though I've practically cornered the market with what I do. I still feel like I'm not good enough to compete against these younger guys. There's always going to be these younger guys. They're playing faster. They have the next best thing. Just trying to keep up with the social media aspect of what I do. But just in general, I beat myself up with overwhelming myself with what could I have done better? That's probably what my biggest struggle is.
We're going to have a therapist. So the reason I asked these questions for my guests, we're going to have a therapist on what we're going to talk about, because I'm really curious, like what I struggle with, but I want to hear like from other men who are in their 50s from our audience about what their biggest struggle is, because maybe my experience is different.
Real quick,
But
before you go on with that, are you noticing this trend now? You know, we talked to David from We Are Melomaniacs, and he interviews rock stars about addiction and men PTSD, and was on one of our shows. But in this industry, you know, PowerSerg, the PowerSerg part comes from he's a screenwriter. He's a college professor for screenwriting. You know, I've been in media, on air, talent, shock jock, and I just feel like in this industry, like very few of us, like the guys that really you look at are just like the arrogant prick. A lot of times that's a show. We're all imposter syndrome. You know what? Because we get to this point, we have fans. I remember the first time someone asked me for an autograph. I'm like, what the hell you want my autograph? Only those highway patrols ever asked me for my autograph, right? And then, but you know what I'm saying, Phil? Like it puts you in that. Oh my God! Like, and then my picture was on a billboard.
Personally, I love everything I write, and personally, I never have imposter syndrome. But that's because I'm narcissistic enough to have.
Well, there you go. A lot of us are empaths, and so we're willing to sacrifice too much of ourselves for others and to help others succeed. And then when that doesn't come back to us, because who are our haters? Our haters are the ones that are not doing as well or above, right? And those are the ones we're constantly having to help. I don't have to help those that are doing better than me. It's the ones that are doing less, and then they turn around and hate on that. Right. So I just think that's an interesting concept, Serge, and sorry to derail that a little bit, but it goes back to a lot of these shows that we're looking, probably half the shows, there's been a ongoing theme with men as we get closer to 50, recognizing that we have been empaths, that we haven't taken care of ourselves, that we haven't put that mask on first. So I just wanted to put that out there, but go ahead with the next question.
Then the next question is, what's on your bucket list? What are you looking for in the next decade that you might not have experienced or might not have experienced fully? Like, what's on your list of what you want to hit?
Man, I mean, as a musician, there's always, working with certain artists. I mean, there's all these artists that I grew up with that I love to work with. As a husband, bucket list is travel with my wife, certain places in the world that I've been through music that I'd love to take my wife. And then for me, like, just bucket list in general is like it's more materialistic, but to be able to sail around the world, like that's like
that's PowerSerg's too.
That's one of my about it. Just to sail around the world,
Guys, let's get on a boat.
Hey,
let's I'm on a boat.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's just it's when you've committed your life to making every day a better day than the day before. It's really hard not be grateful about what you already have.
And this is exactly the spirit of the show, right? And we always talk about the fact that as men, the first thing we have to do is to give ourselves permission to live our best life, right? We have to say that it is okay for me to strive to be happy.
Absolutely.
It is okay for me to live my best life, especially now that I'm 50.
Absolutely.
Right? And
finding that peace.
We've had to cut people off. I mean, me personally, I've had to cut people off in my life, even though I loved the guy, even though we were best friends. We realized that we were, just like relationships, just like any, relationship that we've had, we're better apart. Like, it doesn't mean I don't care about you. It just, I realize that we are better apart. One of my best friends in the world, a guy named Daryl Ross. This guy, him and I, we literally lived on the streets together. We lived in the parking lots of gas stations. We've lived, we slept in his car when we had nowhere else to go. I mean, this guy, we were in the trenches together, but we know that we needed to split apart from each other because that was the only way that him and I were both going to be successful. We had to have that reality, and we wanted better lives for ourselves. Fortunately that was young when we were younger, in our mid-20s. And, you start understanding, like, okay, do I have time, energy, for this person to come into my life and start derailing everything that I've I worked so hard for.
We have to change our circle as we
Yeah.
go through life, and as we start making the decisions, and as we dare to live. We have to change this circle, because there's a lot of people that aren't going to help us get there. Now, we are out of time. However, I had to get to something before we go to our call to action. So, Phil, I remember one day like it was yesterday. As a big baseball fan, you're a big baseball fan. You're on the J-Lo tour. You went live in a mansion or a green room or something with A-Rod. You and Alex Rodriguez just kicking it there. Give me a story. Give me something about he's a hero of mine. Like, give me something about your time with A-Rod on the J-Lo tour.
Alex is a cool guy. He's a lot of these celebrities are not the same in person as you see them on social media and TV. But we were at Alex's house. We were celebrating his birthday, and we were at a drink. So I sent my wife to the bar to go get more drinks. And my wife, who grew up a huge baseball fan, loved A Rod growing up. She's like, "Oh my God, it's Alex, it's A Rod, oh my God, A Rod, A Rod." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just Alex. I've just spent the last 4 months, standing next to him talking, whatever." So anyway, she comes back from the bar. She's coming back from the bar with drinks in hand, and she happens to walk between Alex and Jennifer as Alex, and you can probably find this on the internet somewhere, where Alex is calling out Jennifer. Uh, Alex being from Miami, Jennifer being from New York. "Hey, you don't know nothing about this Miami stuff," and basically calling Jennifer out in the middle of the dance floor as my wife is walking right between them, and they're going at it like having a little dance battle. And there you can see my wife with drinks coming back to me, and we just party the night away. That's
That's
probably one of my,
awesome.
my favorite A-Rod stories, probably.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
no, I
and it's
lot
good
of
to
envy,
know
lot,
that
lot of
celebrities.
hating on you.
No, but it's good to know that celebrities are
People
Normal
too.
people,
normal.
man.
Yeah, normal
Normal people.
people, and a nice. We always see the worst of in celebritydom, right?
Yeah.
We always see
Right.
the celebrity who loses it, because that's all over the internet, right? We see celebrity who's angry, who's drunk, who's all those things. But it's good to know that there are some celebs that are humble and are
Yeah.
generally good people.
We forget that they're people too. Jennifer's a mom. She actually got me this watch for my birthday. She's one of the coolest big sisters to have, and she cries. I've seen, Jennifer, right, like pretty much roll out of bed, no makeup on, in her pajamas, and um, you know,
Hey, she's Jenny from the block,
she's
brother.
Jenny from the block, yeah. And a lot of people, of course, you're always gonna have haters. It doesn't matter, who you are. The bigger you are, the more haters there are, and that's what we just got to focus on, just focusing on ourselves and the things that are important to us.
Phil, your one piece of advice to men right now who are teeter-tottering about doing something like joining a band or trying to grab that hobby to do their best life, from your experience going out of industry, starting to get back into it as a school teacher, traveling with Jennifer Lopez and Lighter Shade of Brown, being, playing in front of thousands and thousands of people. What's your advice to men who are seeking to live their best
Man,
life?
it's a no-brainer, man. Do it. It sounds so childish, but it's so. You only live once, man. Like it sounds so childish, but do it. And if you're in circles that are keeping you from doing that, those are not. You got to put yourself in a better circle, a little bit more supportive
Yeah,
circle, or more understanding circle. But like
that's,
we talked about in the very beginning, you can't be there for everybody if you're not there for yourself. And
yep, absolutely.
my wife, when we first got married, my wife made me go back to school to get my degree. I have a bachelor's degree in human services and I have a master's degree in education, because I was going to be a full-time high school teacher. But my wife realized that it wasn't what made me happy. What made me happy was being on stage and being a musician. And she said, if you can make a living out of that and support your family, then go after it. And I've done it ever since. And we've been, we and I have been the happiest I've ever been. So go do it.
That's
Don't,
huge.
no restrictions. Who's telling you not to? Go do it.
Right.
Just, you know,
Well, upstairs in my office, I have it's a big neon guitar pick, and it says "Buy the ticket." You know what I
that's
mean?
it.
Just
You're never gonna
go out
know.
there.
You're never gonna know. Go be adventurous. Go try try new things, all those things that you've always wanted to do in your life. Who's keeping you from doing it? You know, you're going to be on, you know, at one point you're going to be looking back. I mean, those shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Again, it sounds so cliche. You don't want to have a shoulda, coulda, woulda. You want to have, hell yeah,
Absolutely.
I did. Hell yeah, I skydived. Hell yeah, I climbed Mount Everest. Hell yeah, I did this, that, and the other. Hell yeah, I sailed the world, right, Serge?
I think if I'm going to sail
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
world, I want to do it
yeah.
on a cruise ship
Got to start somewhere.
with.
So Serge, what's the call to action? Based on with Phil closing out there, what's the call to action
I
today?
mean, it's same thing as Phil said. It's what we say all the time, right? Is dare to live. Start with yourself and give yourself permission to be happy. Give yourself permission to dare to live, right? And what that means in your bliss. But what's interesting to me from hearing you to a certain degree and Phil and others is that everybody's bliss is different. Phil's bliss is being up on stage, right? Your bliss is a relationship. I'm single and partying along, and my bliss is that. And so, one of the things that we're going to do for the upcoming shows is we're going to have a psychologist on who's going to talk about like some of the biggest challenges. So we'll touch on the imposter syndrome. We're going to have we still have the dating game coming up, where we're gonna do a social experiment when it comes to dating, and then have some dating coaches on. So there's a lot of very exciting things coming up. And this is how we are daring to live.
Phil Ruiz, drummer Phil, appreciate it.
Thank
And
you,
good
guys.
luck on these tours and give our best to Tierra. I know you guys are rocking it right now, and we wish you the best in the future. We are going to go out and live the best day of our lives. You go live yours. Have a great day.
The show doesn't stop there. Join the movement on IG, 50 Shades of _great, or go to our website, 50shadesofgreat.com.